Hello, my name is Richard today, and I am a recovering alcoholic. I'm here to read the Daily Reflections book for October 2025. It's called Solace for Confusion. Obviously, the dilemma of the wanderer from faith is that of profound confusion. He thinks himself lost to the comfort of any conviction at all. He cannot attain, in even a small degree, the assurance of the believer, the agnostic, or the atheist. He is the bewildered one. That's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, found on page 28. The concept of God was one that I struggled with during my early years of sobriety. The images that came to me, conjured from my past, were heavy with fear, rejection, and condemnation. Then I heard my friend Ed's image of a higher power. As a boy, he had been allowed a litter of puppies, provided that he assumed the responsibility for their care. Each morning he would find the unavoidable byproducts of the puppies on the kitchen floor. Despite frustration, Ed said he couldn't get angry because that's the nature of puppies. Ed felt that God viewed our defects and shortcomings with a similar understanding and warmth. I've often find solace with my personal confusion in Ed's calming concept of God. Period. The end of the reading. Wow, this could be a huge topic. Solace for confusion, is that what it says? Yes. So I went and read at least the full page of 28 where they got this. Obviously, the dilemma of the wanderer from faith is that of profound confusion. He thinks himself lost to the comfort of any conviction at all. He cannot attain in even a small degree the assurance of the believer, the agnostic, or the atheist. He is the bewildered one. And right at this second, I don't recall if I found that useful or not, except for just where it starts with obviously. That's another one of these words I want to point out. I want to pick out. I want to argue with on the inside. I got a problem with that. Here on page 28. You know, this page 28 is a continuation from in step 2 on page 25. In step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay, a larger scope of things. It's October. It's the 10th month. And I said this book usually deals with 10th step things in the 10th month. Why do they throw something from the second step in here? Well, I brought this up a couple days ago that steps 1, 2, and 3 are essential. They're all very super important. And then by the time we get to practicing these principles in all our affairs, and we have a spiritual awakening as a result of practicing these steps, there's, I forget what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. The 10th step, 10th month, why this stuff about faith again and God, I guess. I'll dig in there. The concept of God was one that I struggled with during my early years of sobriety. Okay, so obviously it says, that I'm taking issue with this still. Solace for confusion. The bewildered one, I'm reading this backwards in a way, from obviously the person with wandering from faith is one of profound confusion. They can't seem to latch into any kind of faith, whether it be what the agnostic, the atheist, or the believer believes. How do you fix that? Okay, so now 10th step things. Let's read the 10th step. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. I can twist this together, I think, still. That I brought this up a few days ago at least, that if we had never taken an inventory of ourselves ever, just, I'm sure people are afflicted with some kind of terrible memory problem from whatever, from trauma or just disease, where they can't remember things. That would be horrible, I think. Okay, so if you do have the ability to remember things, and you come down to this 10th step, and it says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. I was comparing this also to humility and pride. That if you'd never taken a look at your past, even 2 minutes ago, 10 seconds ago, to 10 years ago, you'd never looked at it. And then you find yourself in a tight spot in the midst of a mistake again, or in a fit of anger and rage, or another unending drinking bender, a seemingly unending drinking bender, and wonder why. Well, maybe the 10th step could help in this, that you take a look. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And you see that, okay, I was wrong. At least you can figure that much out. Maybe. And then maybe that's enough for you for the day, and that's fine too. Because sometimes things just don't, well, whatever. I'm trying to get this back to the faith thing for October 20th. Solace for confusion. This person that's wandered from faith is experiencing confusion. Can't seem to get it together with even what an atheist, agnostic, or believer believes. He's bewildered. And then I started reading again. The concept of God was one that I struggled with during my early years of sobriety. The images that came to me, conjured from my past, were heavy with fear, rejection, and condemnation. And when I said earlier, this is such a huge thing. Let me see if I can zero in on what I've experienced in AA, mainly for 20 years of attending these meetings, and changing as a person with different beliefs nearly the entire time, is that a lot of people in AA have this very common thing, the fear of the rejection and the condemnation from God. And so then they form an opinion, maybe rightly so, that they think, wrongly though, I'm going to say boldly, that God somehow is punishing them. That's not correct, I would say. We're going to talk about these puppies here in a minute too, with the unavoidable byproducts. If you can get beyond, that's why God as you understand Him, that little statement there. And back to steps 1, 2, and 3. You get this problem and you figure out its powerlessness, and your life has become unmanageable. That's step 1. Step 2, you came to believe that something could restore you to sanity. That's this like uncontrollable urge to keep damaging yourself by drinking these amounts of alcohol that's killing you and really affecting your thinking. And then step 3 is you make a decision to turn your will and life over to the care of God as you understand Him. That, as you understand Him. If you're human, which a large percentage of you are, I'm sure there's robots listening and other things, entities, aliens, who knows, whatever. Extraterrestrials, I mean, from outside this planet. I had this concept of fear, rejection, condemnation. That was my picture of God. I didn't have that because I didn't ever really believe in God. Ever. Let's just say that. So then when all of a sudden God started coming up again in AA in the form of a power greater than myself, could restore me to sanity, and then to turn my will and life over to this God or this power greater than, as I understood Him, I had a blank slate. So I'm like, well, I don't know what God's name, address, where He lives, how to contact Him. Is He Your Highness? Is He my Lord? Is He, or whatever? I just had no preconceived ideas, essentially. So I was lucky in that sense. Maybe all the years up to that point weren't as good as they could have been with a different belief, which I now have. And man, big thing. Solace for confusion. So we're going to fix this confusion of the unbeliever, I guess, is kind of what we're looking at, or what they're attempting to do on this page, with limited evidence coming from this guy. So what I've seen in AA is that's very common. The struggling with this image of God being fearful and being rejected and being condemned by God. And then I posited this thought that I don't think that's correct. I think God is like He's a protector, a giver, a comforter, among other things, but any of the bad, ugly, fear, condemnation, rejection, that's been warped by people, by humans, by injecting their philosophies and ideas and beliefs and things into stuff. For whatever reasons, there's many. And then that all just gets swirled around in the mess up here. And as an alcoholic myself, I just thought all people were evil and bad. And I was perfectly righteous. So, when I got pulled over by the police, it's because that particular officer, had something wrong or bad or evil with him. Because I'm perfect. And I couldn't let go of that. My ego would not let me falter on my righteousness and perfection just in who I was. So, where am I going with this? This concept that I had eventually when, like yesterday's reading, I think it said, AA's main taproot, the principle that we shall find no enduring strength until we first admit complete defeat. So I had to admit that I was the problem of everything that I experienced. And I could fix myself, or I could find help for myself from somebody, something else. And I had to humble myself. Okay, so now we're back to the humility and pride. Where are we at? 14 minutes. I feel like maybe I'm gaining a little traction in where I'm headed here. Maybe people have the wrong image of God because they see a bunch of bad things in their life and they blame God. or they see well, let me just stop there. And my concept is God is not the person or the thing putting those on your life or in your life or forcing you in some way to experience these things for growth. Maybe what he can do is give you, what God could do is afford you the strength to endure through the bad circumstance and come out victorious. Whereas your ego and pride probably will not do that. And then you'll be right back to blaming God because you have a lot of pride and not enough humility. Which, if you look at alcoholism, it's just a primarily selfish disease. I don't want to get any further into that one either right this minute. So the images that came to me conjured from my past were heavy with fear, rejection, and condemnation. Then I heard this dude's image of a higher power, that he had these puppies and they kept peeing on the floor. And, it's like this person with the fear, rejection, condemnation complex. It's like, why don't you beat those puppies? They're messing up your property or whatever. And Ed, the guy that has the puppies, had this different image. That's the nature of puppies. They don't know any better. They're peeing on the floor. It might as well be grass to them. They don't know what linoleum is or what carpet is or what grass is for that matter, or dirt or cat litter. It's a puppy. Give it some grace. We haven't even tried to mess with its brain and tell the puppy that's not correct or whatever. So, this brings me back to what humans end up believing, that they get full of information from all different sources. They weigh the evidence, they come up with a conclusion, and they figure God's bad. And then I'm trying to fight for God here and say, no, that's coming from all your bad choices that ran all these circumstances together to the only spot for you to end up is dead or in jail for the chronic massive amounts of drinking, say, because of all the consequences of all these previous behaviors and thinking and decisions that you've made influenced by alcohol. And then I'll just say that is the problem. Not just the alcohol, but all that, let's call it evil stuff over there happening. That now somehow we try and blame God for all the evil stuff. How does God let that happen? Why'd you let it happen to me? How come, I'm a good person and blah, blah, and all this stuff, and how come my liver failed or whatever, right? And you start experiencing a lot of bad, evil things from your use of alcohol. We're trying to fix all that here. So this guy with the puppies kind of helped out this other person. Let's call him Ted. So we got Ed that owns the puppies and Bob and Ted and Alice. Those are the people. Okay, so we're going to call Ed Ted. Ted's the guy with the puppies. The concept of God was one that I struggled with during my early years of sobriety. The images that came to me conjured from my past were heavy with fear, rejection, and condemnation. Then I heard my friend Ted's image of a higher power. As a boy, he had been allowed a litter of puppies, provided that's a lot of puppies, right? That's like 8, 10, 20? I don't know. It's a lot. It's more than several. Provided, Ted, if you will assume the responsibility for their care. Each morning he would find the unavoidable byproducts of the puppies on the kitchen floor. Urine, say. Despite frustration, see, this is the thing. Ted said he couldn't get angry because that's the nature of puppies. Ted felt that God viewed our defects and shortcomings with a similar understanding and warmth. The protector, comforter, not evil, good. I've often found solace from my personal confusion in Ted's calming concept of God. So Bob figured out that maybe Ted had something Bob could use. He had been he had a fake, false, incorrect, non-helpful image of God in his head. Now, back to step 2. This came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I mentioned in my own experience, I didn't know who God was. I didn't know what his address, his phone number was. I didn't know what to call him, how to ask him for help. I didn't have any preconceived ideas whatsoever. Complete blank about God. And then I come into AA, and actually, this is kind of a longer story. I get to treatment. They tell me this is based on a 12-step program, and so we're going to be using these 12 steps in your recovery. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, because I'm desperate. I need help. I'm dead, basically. I'm a dead man walking. I need help. I'm ready to change. I'll do anything you tell me, basically. Pleading for mercy. And confused, utterly confused about all kinds of things. See, I'm going to run out of time. So, we'll just kind of take a breath here. Let this naturally run out, and then it will start. Well, no, I'll just say the end of part 1, and then I'll come back with part 2.